What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel. We got another Week 3 preview and prediction video up for you, and today we're going to be talking about an upset bid game potentially. You got the Kansas State Wildcats ranked 15th in the nation, and they're going on the road to face the Missouri Tigers. Should be a good one out of Columbia, Missouri. But before we dive on into this preview prediction, I just want to say thank you guys so much for the support the channel has seen over the last 3 months. It's meant a lot to me. Seriously, thank you guys so much. You guys who maybe are new or haven't done so yet, continue to show your support for the channel. Hit the subscribe button, ring the bell so you know when videos get uploaded. But guys, there are more ways than that to help me support my channel. You're doing one of them right now by watching the video, and you can do more by liking, commenting, sharing, and anything else you guys are willing and able to do to help me support my channel. So here we go. We got the Kansas State Wildcats. We got the Missouri Tigers, two teams that formerly were rivals in the Big 12 Conference, and two teams that don't really like each other much at all. So this is going to be a very exciting, very interesting game. You got revenge on the minds of Missouri. They ended up losing to the Wildcats last season. And, well, guys, this is just going to be a very fun, very, very exciting game to watch here out of Columbia, Missouri. I don't really like the channel that it's on, but we'll talk about that more here in a little bit. But let's go ahead and dive on in now to the statistics that these two teams have put up so far throughout this college football season. We are going to start with the road team, and that is the Kansas State Wildcats. So let's talk about the Wildcat offense first. It's been a pretty good offense so far. Will Howard has really been able to get it going. 547 yards, flipped around two numbers, 67% completion percentage, 5 touchdowns, 2 picks, and has only been sacked 1 time. Now, the 2 interceptions, you'd like to see him clean up there as well, but for the most part, guys, it's been a really effective pass game there for Will Howard. You have a couple other guys that have thrown some passes, but they average 305 yards per game. Will Howard, I believe, right around the 380, 370 yard mark averaging per game. And, well, no Deuce Vaughn, no problem. The run game has been really effective there as well. You got guys like Trayshawn Ward, DJ Giddens, Will Howard doing a little bit of running himself. He leads the team actually with 3 rushing touchdowns. So it's an offense that's really started to find this groove there as well. And, well, you lose Malik Knowles out of the wide receiver room. Not really a problem. You got guys like RJ Garcia, Phillip Brooks, Jane Jackson, the tight end Ben Sanat, all those guys over 100 yards receiving there on the season already. Moving over to the defensive side of the football, I don't really want to say that the Wildcats defense hasn't been tested yet, because I think Troy is a very solid team out of the Sun Belt Conference. But I think this is definitely going to be the Wildcats' biggest defensive test yet with the Missouri Tigers, or I should say going on the road to play the Missouri Tigers here. Run defense so far has just been superb. They've only allowed 38 rush yards per game. That's one of the top marks in the entire country. And overall, guys, this defense has performed really, really well. They've been able to generate pressure to the quarterback. They're not allowing teams to convert on 3rd down. They forced a couple turnovers here and there as well. They got 2 turnovers on the year. Again, that's an average of 1 per game. So I think the defense has performed really, really well, especially when you take a look at the defensive front 7. Yeah, you did lose a couple key guys from last year's team, but what is on this year's team is really talented. Even though you did lose a lot out of the secondary, that secondary is looking really, really good as well. It's a Wildcat defense that I really like, and I've loved what I've seen from them so far. Now, talking about the Missouri Tigers here, offensively, maybe it's been a little bit of a struggle at times, but for the most part, this is an offense that's performed really, really well so far this season. Brady Cook has only thrown 9 incompletions this year. He's only thrown 40 pass attempts, but completed 31 of them, 376 yards, and 3 touchdowns. His favorite target by far has been Luther Burden. No one else on the team even has 5 catches. Luther Burden has 15 for 213 yards. Nathaniel Pete out of the backfield is running the ball well. He's the 2nd leading receiver on the team. You also got Cody Schrader that's back there running the football for this team as well. Brady Cook, 2 rushing touchdowns in it of himself as well. So, I mean, when I take a look at this Missouri offense top to bottom, the one thing, I think there's a lot of very good talent. I think Brady Cook's a solid quarterback. Luther Burden is an absolutely phenomenal weapon to have in the wide receiver room. And we'll be talking about this more later, but I'm going to briefly mention it here. In order for Missouri's offense to really work in this game, you got to provide protection there to Brady Cook. You have to be able to provide protection to that quarterback. Missouri's allowed 5 sacks on the year so far. That's an average of 2.5 per game. That's going to get turned around really fast, as you see the number there with the Kansas State Wildcat defensive front. 8 sacks, that's 4 per game. It's a really, really good defensive front. Again, we'll talk more on that later. Just wanted to touch on it a little bit here. As far as this Missouri defense goes, this will also be the first true test that the Missouri defense has to face this year as well. Missouri started out with, I believe, South Dakota, and then you played at Middle Tennessee State last week. And while, again, things did not go perfectly in either of those games, offensively or defensively, for this Tiger team, you know what, they ended up playing pretty darn well defensively throughout all of it. They themselves have a pretty solid pass rush. They've generated 6 sacks on the year. Third down defense has been looking pretty good. And overall, defensively, I mean, this is a Missouri Tiger team that's looking fairly sound so far. But the one thing that you want to see out of Missouri, especially in this game, is start to force turnovers. There were a couple missed opportunities where they could have forced some turnovers there in week 1. But in week 2, really didn't even come close, and it kind of led to them struggling a little bit against Middle Tennessee State. So we'll see if Missouri can be able to force turnovers in this game. That's one thing on my what to watch for I do not have, but keep in mind, whichever team wins the turnover battle, likely, again, this speaks for all games. It's a little cliche, but if Missouri can win the turnover battle, oh boy, they're going to be looking really good. But here's my what to watch for. 3 things for each team to watch for. Maybe keys to the game, things like that. We're going to start with the road team again, the Kansas State Wildcats. This offensive line has been looking pretty good so far throughout the season, but it needs to fear this Tiger pass rush. There are a lot of great pass rushers here on this team. Gaddy already has 2 sacks here. Johnny Walker already has 1 sack there as well. There are a couple other guys that don't have sacks. The linebacker Tyron Hopper, Jaden Jernigan up front. Their leading tackler is a defensive lineman by the name of Darius Robinson. He does not have a sack yet. So this is a Tiger pass rush that should be feared by this Kansas State offensive line. It's going to be able to create pressure. The offensive line has to do a good job at protecting Will Howard here in this game, or if not, Will Howard's got to get rid of the football quickly, which leads me into Will Howard. He's going to make plays often, and not just him. This running back room, this wide receiver room, if Will Howard throws a 50-50 ball up, this wide receiver room is good enough, even without Malik Knowles, to come down, make a play. There's a lot of nice talent in and around Will Howard on this offensive unit, but especially that pass game, I think, is going to be making plays really often. And this Wildcat defense is really too talented to be beat as many times as Missouri may need to be able to win this game, right? So that kind of leads into my prediction a little bit here, but Missouri does have a lot of nice things going for it. This defense for Kansas State is talented, yes, but it will get beat by the Brady Cook and Luther Burden connection, guys. It is going to be lethal. Now, whether it's Brady Cook or whoever else, Sam Horn is the other guy back there that ends up walking out at the quarterback position. More likely than not, I think will be the Brady Cook, unless there's some underlying things there. I don't know. I've seen some things on Twitter that maybe Brady Cook might be replaced by Sam Horn in that game. But Brady Cook, for all I know, is healthy, ready to go. And this connection with Luther Burden is going to be absolutely lethal. Again, Luther Burden, the best receiver in this wide receiver room, or I should say in this pass catching room by far. And whoever plays quarterback, especially if it's Brady Cook, going to have to find him and do what they've done throughout the first 2 games of the season so far. The pass rush, I've talked about it a little bit already, so I'm not going to touch too much on it here, but the pass rush is going to need to pressure Will Howard. Again, there are a lot of guys that still do not have a generated sack on the season that are perfectly capable of being able to do so. This is a very nice pass rush. They're going to be able to create pressure in the backfield for Will Howard and this offense. But the big thing for Missouri, and again, it's not on here, force turnovers and capitalize off those turnovers. But their head coach, Eli Drinkwitz, he has something to prove. His seat is definitely not the coldest seat in the world. Now, it's definitely not the warmest seat in the world, but it is also a warmer seat that we are seeing around college football right now. Is he going to be able to prove that he has a big win in him, which leads into my prediction? Kansas State is getting 5 points here against the Missouri Tigers, and while I could see it being a closer game than that, I think Kansas State opens up the doors on it a little bit. I still think Missouri's going to remain competitive, and that pass rush is going to be able to keep them in games. But ultimately, I see this Kansas State defense making too many plays. The Kansas State defense will force the extra turnover that it needs, and all the skill position players in this Kansas State room will be a little bit too much for this Missouri defense to handle. So I got the Wildcats winning this one. Very close game. It's on the SEC network, which again, I don't really like, but that's where you can find this game. Should be a good one out of Columbia. Let me know your thoughts on this game in the comment section below. And as always, guys, remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. See you guys in the next video. Goodbye.